Hey guys, welcome to the Unnamed Football Show. It is still unnamed because we have had no suggestions about the name. So please leave them down in the comments. Um, this is the Manchester United Roundtable. I'm very excited for this one because literally all my football friends are Man United fans, which sometimes gets a little weird when we lose three times to them in the season. But yeah, I think it's good for now. So let's go to Kern and let's see what's up with Manchester United and let's see what's up with their domestic season.
Yeah, hi guys. As far as our domestic season is concerned, I don't really have too much to say apart from the fact that it's progress at the very least. We were definitely aiming to get into the Champions League spots, and the ideal way to do that would have been through the top four in the Premier League, and rather than winning the Europa League like we did the last time we played in the Champions League under Jose Mourinho. And as far as the overall season review is concerned, definitely positive. Obviously, would have liked some silverware, but as long as the squad is progressing and the team is building, I guess it's more than what I can hope for, to be very honest. Because at the start, when we started losing matches, I was thinking that there is no way we're going to finish above sixth at the very best. And the points deficit kept on widening up before the coronavirus break, and even before that, actually. So the fact that we managed to get into the top four, albeit with a little bit, albeit with a few hiccups towards the end, it's a positive season for me, but not the season that I hoped for. At least as far as the performance is concerned, vis-a-vis silverware. We got to the semis of the Europa League, the semis of the FA Cup. We were unfortunate to be knocked out of the League Cup by Man City, but then again, we did beat them at the Etihad as well, not by a big enough scoreline. So yeah, it's a positive in my book, but definitely there's a lot more to build towards.
I'd just like to add on, I guess. So we started well and we ended well, but there are a lot of points in the season where we were, I would say, disappointed a lot. Um, I wouldn't say the managerial staff was, at fault for this. The players were not performing in general. We were injury stricken, of course, and the lack of quality depth in our squad, it really hit us bad. And there were times when only two, maybe three people would perform the entire game, and we would literally have to struggle to score even once or twice in consecutive games. And that was probably one of the worst runs I've seen as a Manchester United fan, at least for as long as I've been one. And happy with the signings in the sense, Bruno has been sensational. I mean, he's been a freaking revelation. I did not expect that from someone from the Portuguese league to end up having such an impact on a squad which is underperforming, and he literally sparked off the entire squad. Also, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, man, oh my God, I did not see that coming. That consistency, that strength, that kind of agility, and I agree, like he still has a long way to go, but defensively, there's no better right back at his age in the Premier League right now.
I think
So
that's something that I agree with. Like this year with United, you could see their young talent coming through and
Mhm.
actually, contributing to the team and contributing to the season a lot more than before with like
Yeah,
names like Mason Greenwood and Daniel James and like Van
definitely.
Bissaka as well. Like you got him from Crystal Palace, I think, and he's been a
Yeah,
great signing for you guys. And obviously,
yeah.
like the initial signings of the year, which were the marquee signing was probably Harry Maguire. How do you think that has turned out? Considering like, see, this is the problem that I have with signing Harry Maguire. It's good that you signed him. He's a great center back, but is he good enough to be your captain right as he comes into the team? That I think is a little
Mhm.
questionable from my end. What do you guys think about it?
I think Harry Maguire was given the captaincy maybe too quickly, but other than him, we don't. Maybe we have Pogba, but there aren't many leaders in our team at the moment. And I think Harry Maguire has done well as his captain. And if we're talking about a domestic season, around December or January, when we lost to Burnley 2-0, I think that was a low point in our season. And then Bruno came to our team and he really changed it around. And at that point, no one really expected us to get top four. So the fact that we got, third position is good. But there's been a few problems, especially our squad depth. So like we saw it in the Carabao Cup, we don't have the squad depth to compete with teams like Man City. And when they can bring players like Bernardo Silva and Riyad Mahrez as their substitutes, then it's tough to beat them.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like literally, no one
Yeah.
has the squad depth to
Yeah.
as good squad
I
depth as
agree.
City right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with you guys. Like your squad depth, even towards the end of the season with Igalo coming in and a few other players coming in, it wasn't like it wasn't as good as it should have been. I mean, it's great that you guys finished third and
Yeah.
Chelsea coming in fourth with goal difference, but it's just that for Chelsea as well as United, the squad depth is very important to actually sustain those positions for next year.
Yeah, agreed. That's
Yep.
true. And there's like one more thing that I had to say. I mean, as far as our signings are concerned, squad depth definitely a problem. Agree 100%. But I've seen a lot of people give hate to Dan James on Instagram, Twitter, etc., etc., for his lack of goals. But people forget that after his flurry of goals ended, he was actually the one providing assists. He was the leading assist maker in the team until Bruno came in. So that is
Yeah.
something to consider, especially since he's a very young lad from Swansea. And like Raghav said, Aaron Wan-Bissaka fully justified his price. I mean, and as far as Harry Maguire's price is concerned as well, I get it. He should not. If you equate a defender's price to his quality, as far as that is concerned, Harry Maguire should not be the world's most expensive defender. But the problem is the fact that we really needed someone like him allowed Leicester to set a high enough price for themselves. And honestly, that's fine by me. Because had that not happened, had Harry Maguire not been here, especially with Bailly's injury, we might not even have gotten to European football. If I'm being very honest, considering the increased number of clean sheets that we kept this season.
I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka has had a really good season because, like in the starting of the season when we were playing Man City and Chelsea, he's won us games by he's stopped Sterling and he's stopped a lot of left wingers from scoring. Even Sadio Mane was not able to score. And I think Wan-Bissaka, he's been like one constant for us throughout the season. So yeah, he's definitely justified his price tag.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
I just like to circle back to something Aaron started, right? So you said we'd seen a lot of youngsters taking up positions which were not expected, especially someone to lead the defense. I would say at some point, and lead not instead, like he's a captain or something, but even at left back, our second choice is Brandon Williams. He's just 19, and he
Right.
scored against Sheffield United. He set us up for the comeback. Like, sure, we ended at 3 all, but till that point, till Brandon scored, we were absolute shit. Like the entire match, no one stepped up at all. We were playing Phil Jones, who got bullied so bad for the second goal, and I really don't even know what to say about that game. But Brandon Williams set us up. Then Rashford and Mason combined. So yeah, coming back to one thing that you said, right? Youngsters taking up responsibility. Dude, look at Rashford from last season to this season.
Oh yeah,
He's playing at left winger. He's taking on people. He's literally setting himself up to exploit the opposition's defense, especially from a typical winger point of view. He started off as a striker, went out to the left wing. He stepped up humongously. Like he's had a huge impact on the entire squad. He was a leader at 22 years of age, which is something you would love to see as a United fan. We've always encouraged our youth. That has been true that's like in the DNA of United, right? You need academy graduates to represent United. Other than that, then with any other club, right? With Real Madrid, Bayern, we just buy, we don't make. There'll be very few people left that way, right? Ole has been extremely, I would say, important for Rashford's development. The awareness that he's created, right? Even before Bruno came in, dude, Rashford was creating balls for Martial and Mason Greenwood that Scholes would be proud of. And I was really happy with the way he was playing. Fred also stepped up a lot, during the entire season, but I don't think Fred has the quality to sustain his career at United. If we get someone better, Fred is out of the door. I'm sorry.
I think Fred is sort of a player who, he needs a run of games. Like you can't just throw him in a game out of the blue, like we've done in cup competitions. Play him in the Europa League, play him in the Carabao Cup once in a while. He's not that kind of player. He's like Wayne
Yeah.
Rooney. He needs a proper run of games, and when he does, he can play well. But like you said, I mean, we need players off the bench who can come on the pitch and make an impact. I don't think Fred can do that.
Agreed. Yeah, exactly. Fred's not good enough to be a first team regular at this point.
Yeah.
But the fact is, with a guy like Matic performing, and with hopefully, fingers crossed, a guy like Donny van de Beek coming in, then it's highly unlikely that we see the best of Fred, especially off the bench. And that's why I think if we are to sell him, then hopefully we should get a good price for him, because that will definitely help our finances rather than swapping him, unless the swap is Donny van de Beek himself.
We would easily prefer Donny van de Beek. He would be a great addition. He can attack, he can defend, he can set Pogba free a lot of times, he can help Bruno out, he can win the ball back. So he's really talented. Plus he's young, and he's had Edwin van der Sar as director for a really long time. So he knows what Ajax and at the same time what United are about. So he'd be a really
Exactly,
great
yeah.
addition.
And to top it off, like one final statement on Van de Beek is that we have to remember, when we won the Europa League, we actually played against Van de Beek in the final, and he was
Yeah.
playing really well against us. And the fact is, like you said, one very important thing right now, while Pogba is doing it well, he's playing a very disciplined role, and we know there's so much more to him than that. Those long range passes that he sprays directly at the feet of Rashford or Greenwood or Martial, they'd be much better if he won the ball further up. So if
Yeah.
someone like Van de Beek can set Pogba free, then we've got two brilliant creative talents in Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba, setting up people with brilliant finishing like Rashford, Martial, and Greenwood. So definitely Van de Beek or Grealish, for that matter, are players that would really, really help our attacking prowess.
So, what do you guys think about the new signings that are going to help you out in the upcoming season? Who is the guy that you want to go to?
Firstly, we'll look at the main person, obviously, Sancho, right wing. He's already proven himself in the European League, and I mean, looking at the way we play, we've seen Van Bissaka play up front trying to cross, which is not happening. Since Greenwood and Rashford always play inside lane, I mean, they could flank, but it's mostly our right backs and the left backs as playing up front trying to cross at times, which never works. But having Sancho up front on the right would be a great asset. That's the first thing. Then a CDM or a central midfielder, which is, I feel, Donny van de Beek, as he's in great talks, and I believe he's also flying in for a medical this week or something. Not sure, but I mean, very versatile player. He loves to play on the attacking side. But the best point is we have Bruno to be on the attacking side as well, which frees up Pogba to play behind and make those deep passes, as we saw with Pogba and Rashford's and Martial's link up. And with Donny, if he replaces Matic, if he replaces Fred in the first team, then we at least have a solid defensive thing if someone counters, just in case. Or then he can also be upfront helping as an extra man, I feel. And I think a left back is also necessary. And if not a left back, then at least a centre back that is somewhat a partner to Harry Maguire. Because we've seen we need players, because we start at the back and then we build at front. And Harry Maguire was the key of linking up passes, taking from the defense to ahead, right? But Lindelof, I mean, in the recent games, he's been good in terms of tackles and stuff. But if you look at set pieces, if you look at like corners especially, he's not even that tall and his vertical is very low. And that's where we get beat. When you see especially him standing next to the post, we've had goals where he couldn't defend. So we probably need someone, maybe Koulibaly, Alaba on the left back. And if they can look at someone in the centre back to pair with Maguire, that would be great as well. I think we had a bid for Benoit from AS Monaco for some 25 million. But apparently Monaco says they need a bit like Martial to make it happen, which is, I feel, really stupid because that guy has just played for 20 games. So
But like this isn't this like a common theme? Like as Varun said with center backs, like you need a consistent center back alongside Harry Maguire, and that has been the case for almost every Premier League club. Like City hasn't performed very well um, defensively, so has Chelsea. They've had a lot of problems, obviously conceding so many goals. Maybe that's due to Kepa, maybe that's due to the defense, but definitely I think both of them are at fault. Um, so there is a need for quality consistent center backs across Europe right now. And I don't know who the obvious answer is, because like obviously Koulibaly is one of the people who everyone wants, but he's been with Napoli for such a long time now, and it's just his prices are going to be upwards of 60 million at least.
Plus,
Who
he
do you
signed an
guys
extension as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
Koulibaly.
who do you guys think would be the ideal center back for United? Do you guys think maybe someone like Declan Rice, or someone who can maybe play in the center back as well as a CDM? Do you think he is a good option?
I don't think Declan Rice is a good option, like because he's not like a proper center back. And in terms of CDM, we still have like better options, like Van de Beek and maybe Thiago. But I don't actually see Thiago coming to United because I think he will still prefer Liverpool.
Liverpool. Yeah.
So, and one other thing which I still like see that United still lacks an out and out striker, a 30 plus goal striker, which like teams like City and Liverpool, they all have a like a striker who can score 30 plus goals or 35 plus goals each season. United performed pretty well with Rashford and Martial and also Greenwood, but they scored like around 25 goals, so still, they still need to add 10 more goals. And United, maybe they will go for a striker like maybe Cavani or Higuain. I don't know. But I think they still lack out and out striker.
Let's say you guys get a striker in. Let's say, I mean, for namesake, let's just say it's Cavani, even though I don't think it's likely. But let's say you get a striker. How do you think your formation is going to change with this, with a like maybe a target man up front?
If we get Cavani, I think that link up play is going to be under a huge threat, and that has been something which is something we've been building towards for a long time now. We wanted Bruno because he could play those key passes, key short, crisp, in between space passes. Like I get if we have someone like Cavani at the receiving end of them, he will definitely have 25 goals per season just in the Premier League because he has that kind of a record now. But I still feel like developing something like someone like Martial, it's a benefit to the entire team because if you see his work rate has improved a lot. He's been a link up player as well as a target man, for a lot of the counters. I feel they're dependent on Martial to link up a lot. Like Rashford and Martial have assisted each other more than any other player, any other pair of players this season. So that speaks for itself. You see that they're doing something right. So I agree that we need maybe someone on the right wing, right? So we've had Mason Greenwood. He's been phenomenal. He scored 17 goals at 18 years of age. That's amazing. But of course, if we have someone on the right wing who can add goals as well as assists, that helps both Rashford and Martial. And if we can get that thing sorted, I don't think we need a striker anymore. And Sancho ticks all those boxes for me. He's creative. He makes those runs. He can dribble. He can cross. He can score, and he's freaking lethal, man, at times. So yeah, I think Sancho is someone we really need to go for. That basically sets up, it removes the need for a striker. And we've got Mason as second. And trust me, he doesn't look like he's 18. The kind of, you know, I would say sheer fearlessness that he plays with. I I've forgotten the last time I saw an 18-year-old play that way.
I think he's got the Man United DNA inside him. Like he
Yeah,
knows
exactly.
what's it like to play in this club.
Like you can see the hunger when he plays, when he attacks, and like defenders are like, okay, this guy can score from left and right both. So like, you know, that's kind of the thing we need.
If I can make a comparison, he's like he's basically that to United that Pulisic is to Chelsea. Like he's the guy who always is gunning towards the goal from one of the wings and trying to create something at all times, which I think was missing for United for United at least last season that you guys have
Yeah.
now. And I definitely agree Sancho will be like one of those players who can like create a lot and provide to the link up play alongside scoring goals.
And plus, one more thing, like one last thing that I'd like to say. I mean, Mason, in my opinion, he is a goal scorer out and out. It doesn't matter whether he plays as a number 9 or he plays on the right wing. Because if you notice, he receives a lot of long balls from Pogba. He receives a lot of switch up plays from the other players. He has decent crossing right now. That's why he was working in that position. But the main thing is that with the uh, with the addition of a midfielder like Van de Beek or Thiago to our squad, what happens is that they'll start pulling defenders towards themselves, and that allows Mason a lot more areas to shoot from. So, in effect, what he'd essentially turn into is what I feel Frank Lampard would have been as a striker, because he can shoot from anywhere. He always gets a clean connection with the ball, and he can shoot from either left or right. So I believe Mason is with the correct addition to the squad, whether it's Sancho, Thiago, Van de Beek, or either one of those, either two of those three. Then I definitely believe Mason can be that 25 plus, 30 plus goal striker for us, which will allow us to be in a better position. And I think Varun mentioned that when we talk about Lindelof, as far as set pieces are concerned, I think that's another important issue, because we've had goals from Maguire this season on certain occasions, and that's good enough for him, considering the amount he scored and the fact that he's an out-and-out centre back. But Lindelof hasn't scored that many. He did that last season or the season in which we won Europa. So we need someone like that alongside Harry Maguire, because with those goals piling up in defense, that through our centre backs, with those additions, that allows us to get to that margin of 85 plus team goals, or 90 plus team goals, or 100 plus team goals per season. And that is something that I really believe is the key to building our attacking play to the point that where we can challenge for an actual title, whether it's the Europa League, the Champions League, or the Premier League.
In a few years, Mason Greenwood is going to be the focal point of our attack. Like if we're talking about creating chances or scoring goals, it's basically Greenwood. So even if he's playing on the right wing or as a striker, it's going to be him. So that's why I think Martial is going to be our striker for a long time, because like you guys said, he's very fluid. He can play on the left wing, on the right wing. It allows Greenwood more chances to score goals. And as far as the centre back position is concerned, I think Upamecano from Leipzig would be a good option. I think a lot of top teams in Europe are going to be trying to buy Upamecano in the coming season, because I think he's signed a new contract right now. So everyone's going to be trying to sign him. I think he's good at progressing the ball, so he can really help us play out from the back. And I think it can help Maguire because he's fast too. So when Maguire usually gets left back, he gets turned around by attackers. So Upamecano can help us there.
I think, yeah, that's very true, because we saw that when he was playing for Leipzig in the UCL. And considering the fact he's sort of had a role switch like Alaba, initially he was a CDM, and then he shifted to a centre-back position, and that really helped the defensive lines of both Bayern and Leipzig. So, yeah, definitely agree with you there. That Upamecano would be a very good addition to the squad, provided he does sign for us, of course. And as far as the striker is concerned, bench role, yeah. I mean, if Igalo can perform, which I feel he can, I think we should take a gamble on him for next season at least, and maybe get his loan extended, or if we can sign him for a low price. Because whenever he started, he's actually shown us the kind of squad depth that we need when we're talking about a striker off the bench. So in effect, what we need out of Igalo is what Solskjaer was to Sir Alex Ferguson during the treble-winning team. Someone who can come off the bench if the main striker is not performing and score just like that. That was Chicharito once Solskjaer left. And since we haven't had that player, we haven't really had the complete attack despite having very good players.
But what do you guys think about the 100 plus million price tag for Sancho?
I think we already did a 108 mil bid, which got rejected.
Yeah.
the best part is now Zaha is also in talks for Dortmund. So they're already looking in replacements for Sancho. So that clearly shows the sign that they know Sancho is going to leave for United, because no other team is right now looking for a right winger at that price point, right? And the best part is, if Zaha gets sold to Dortmund, we get 25 mil because of the sell clause. That brings down Sancho's price even more for us. We were initially looking for some 85 plus 15 add-ons or something like that, which is eventually going to come down to 75 plus 15 or 65 plus 15, but not for 4 seasons, just this season.
Yeah, it's too much, man. I agree that he's world class and everything. He's young, but 120 mil is too much. I mean, we're not Barca. We're not gonna do the same thing they did with Dembele. Like 145 for Dembele. I'm sorry, too much. And look at what he's done, right? He's been injured for most of the season and everything.
Exactly, yeah.
Like
And
when
plus
he's
with
performed, he's been amazing, but he's not been consistent. Not for someone of that price.
Yeah, and plus to top it off, I mean, as far as we're talking about, consistency and price point, we do have to remember the club has had major financial losses. I mean, an empty Old Trafford for the remaining season, even though a lot more TV viewers, but still. And plus, the thing is, what the Premier League and most clubs in the Premier have decided to do is renew the season ticket holders for next season for free. So, with considering the prices those season tickets go for, and you have at least around 10,000 or so season ticket holders, that really affects our finances a lot. And paying 120 mil up front for Sancho for that, definitely not worth it. But the fact that I still do believe and hope that he's going to come to United is because I read that Dortmund have been repeatedly asking Sancho to shut down rumors of a move to Man United, quote unquote, publicly on Instagram, and he hasn't done so. So, and with like Varun said, with Dortmund looking at bringing in Zaha, then I really do think that's a positive. But the only issue, like we all know, is the price. And hopefully, Woodward can get a deal sorted. As much as I sometimes don't like the man, he's the one who brought many great players to a club. So you've got to give him credit for that. And hopefully, he can get this done too.
And yeah, I just want to circle back to the centre back thing. Something I feel right now which Chelsea have done right. Like I'm just gonna draw a comparison here. They got Thiago Silva. Now Thiago Silva is not in his prime. He's what, 33 or something, 35, something like that. I'm not sure.
35, I think.
Yeah, 35. I think Thiago Silva is a great addition to Chelsea because why I say this is because Chelsea and United are kind of in a similar problem related to centre backs. They've not had consistent centre back partnership. We've had consistency, but we've not had the kind of quality we want, in that partnership that we had. So Thiago Silva solves two problems. One, he brings consistency. Second, he can mentor the youngsters. So if we can get someone like, I've been reading a couple of reports and there have been rumors of maybe Sam or Rio Ferdinand or Nemanja Vidic coming in as a CB coach. That I think is something which is I think we're in dire need of that. We've not had a coach who can actually coach the team on how to defend together. We've seen Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna coach McTominay and Fred for majority of the season, and that's probably why they've done so well. But we've not had someone who can show the defense the way out. And that works if we have a CB coach. He can mentor Maguire, he can mentor Lindelof, he can mentor Bailly, he can mentor Tuanzebe. We need a CB coach. We've not had someone who can just show United the way for defending, especially set pieces and crosses. Like Lindelof has been exposed way too many times for his liking, and if we can get someone instead of him, I don't think he's going to be starting next season.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot because, like, even with Chelsea, as you said, Thiago Silva coming in is definitely a good short-term addition, especially considering that he has been the captain for PSG for years now, and he has guided them to. Even though I honestly consider the French league to be very close to a farmers league, if not the farmers league, but I think he's a great addition to Chelsea, considering the fact that we don't have a lot of those. Captain minded players. Like we do have Aspilicueta as a captain who's been a great servant to the club for 7 years now, but we don't have those key players throughout the pitch in the playing 11 who can actually be the captain on field if, let's say, Azpilicueta isn't there. Like we used to have Lampard, who's a captain. We used to have Drogba, who's a captain. We used to have even Ramirez, for that matter. Like all these big name players, they would actually turn up.
Dude,
And
John Terry.
obviously John Terry
Yeah.
was the captain, so yeah. So there's no question. Like there's these different players on the pitch, throughout the pitch, who can be the captain when the players surrounding them need encouragement, or need some kind of guiding light through tough games. And I think that's what Chelsea and United need. Chelsea desperately need, I think, a new defensive coach, and I think there's no one better to bring in than John Terry. Like you said, like maybe for Ferdinand coming in for United is similar to what John Terry coming in for Chelsea would be as a coach. The only problem I see with Chelsea specifically, uh, in bringing in John Terry, is that he's already an assistant head coach for Aston Villa. I don't think he'll want to um, take a step down as the defensive coach, maybe for a bigger club, obviously, as Chelsea. But I don't see him doing that for his career right now as a manager. So I think that's something that's questionable. There's no doubt that he would love to come back to Chelsea and offer his services to us as a defensive coach, but I don't see it as likely. I think same with Ferdinand. He'd be a great addition, but he's got his the punditry and all that stuff going on. Yeah, so it seems a little unlikely, though he would definitely be a great addition.
There should be at least one old school centre back who's not afraid to tackle, and we had that in Bai. Like I mentioned, like Kern mentioned, like he's the one who actually comes closest in terms of similarity to Vidic. And Vidic was that one guy, right? He'd break his nose, he wouldn't give a damn. He and one of his most famous quotes is, I don't care if I don't care if I break my nose, that can be mended, but I can't mend a broken pride. So that is the kind of player we've been, I would say, spoiled with. Uh, Someone who would be not, willing to hold back and would just basically maybe even go ahead and kill the player in, not literal terms, but yeah, metaphorical terms. So yeah, I think we need someone
We
with
had a
that kind of a
Liverpool fan
mindset.
in the background.
Shout out to Liverpool.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, basically, I think we need someone like that. And I've been looking at Gabriel for some time now. The guy who has been heavily linked to Arsenal. I think he would be someone which United can heavily depend on for the next at least 5 to 6 years. So you need that kind of a centre back, and that is something as a United fan I want in my team.
Yeah, also, in case anyone's interested, that Liverpool fan in the back was my father. Interesting dynamic if you guys think about it. Yeah, pretty much. He's taunted me with with a Salah jersey that he was supposed to buy, apparently. Turned out to be Firmino's, which is even more annoying now because I can't embarrass him about it since Firmino scored that goal at Anfield. But yeah, that's just, something for the bloopers reel, I suppose.
I think the only position now left to talk about is the goalkeeping position, and Man United are in a very interesting fix with the goalkeepers because we recently extended the contract with Dean Henderson and actually now gave him a contract which is, I think, close to what the number one keepers in the world are earning as per week salary. And now we have three goalkeepers. Maybe Romero will be a number two, but now De Gea and Dean Henderson both are fighting for number one spot, and like it will be interesting to see uh, for which goalkeeper does Ole go to, and is De Gea the permanent number one, or is Dean Henderson getting the chances to play in the Premier League? Or what do you guys think?
I think the problem with De Gea, there are two problems I find in De Gea's game. One is that we have seen under Ole that we want to play out from the back, right? We want to try and pass more, get Harry Maguire, pass the ball to Pogba, to Bruno, and really progress the ball from the back. And the problem is De Gea, he stays too close to the goal. He does not come out very often. Come front. and help the center backs out in passing. Like if you, for example, if you look at someone like Ederson or Allison or maybe Neuer, they come forward, they assist in the, you know, the progression of the ball forward. That's something De Gea doesn't do. And another problem I find in De Gea's game is that he's someone who needs to be tested all game. Like he's not the type of keeper to stay silent for 80 minutes and then pull off a world class save. He needs to be constantly tested, and that is one reason why he was so good in 2017 to 18 this season, because our center back pairing was Chris Smalling and Phil Jones, and we often, attackers often, they got past them, and the ball usually came to De Gea, and that's why he was so good, because he was constantly making saves. But since Maguire has come in, the ball has stayed. It's not come to De Gea as usually as it used to, and that's why he faces a small problem. And the thing is, I think Dean Henderson is very similar, because Sheffield, their defensive setup is good, but Dean Henderson is tested a lot, and the problem is when you come to Manchester United, you're not going to be facing as many shots as you are in Sheffield United. So the keeper needs to be someone who can stay idle for a long time and then pull off a world class save. Something Allison can do, something Oblak can do, Neuer can do.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, to the point that that analysis is spot on, because I think in terms of, bringing out the best in a player, De Gea's case is very much like Fred's. If you don't let them play for a long, if they're not involved in the game for a long amount of time, then you can't see the best. I still see De Gea as one of the top 4 keepers in the world, without a doubt. But I think the issue that needed to be pointed out with De Gea is that if he doesn't get that regular run in the side, then can he keep it up? And if he does keep that regular run in the side, then will his performances be available the instant they're called upon? Not whether if he's being tested all game or not. If he just has to make that one crucial save in the entire game, will he be able to do it when it's needed? Or will he, I think it's a bit harsh, but at the same time, there's no better word for it. Will he go to sleep? In effect.
But do you guys think that Romero should stay at United? Like, I think he's too good a keeper to like just play around 10 matches in a season. Like seeing his performances in the cup matches and also in the Europa League. I think like United should maybe send him on loan somewhere or something like that if they want to like play both Henderson and the yeah.
But wouldn't it be better to send Henderson on loan? I mean, I know that he signed a new contract and obviously his wages are up considering he had a terrific season at Sheffield. Don't you guys think it's better to keep Romero as the number 2? Because obviously the comparison that I draw is the same situation that's happening with the Chelsea right backs at the moment, where you have the one of the top 3 right backs definitely in the Premier League right now in Aspilicueta, and then Reece James knocking on the door, who wants more time, who needs more time to develop as probably our next upcoming right back. It's a similar situation with you guys in the goalkeeper situation, where you have a top goalkeeper in De Gea, very highly paid, very highly respected by the fans of the club, who is now showing signs of maybe um, not performing as good as he once was. Definitely good enough for United at the moment, but maybe not the top goalkeeper that you guys generally have had in the past. I don't see it as a realistic thing to send De Gea off to maybe a better club, because I don't think no one is in the need of a goalkeeper at the moment amongst the top clubs in Europe. But that's why I think it's unlikely. But do you guys think it's better to send De Gea, or is it better to send Romero, or is it better to send Henderson elsewhere?
I think if United sees Henderson as the future number 1, then he needs to stay at United and like you know start playing with them as a number 2 to like get into the system and get to play with the team
But
instead of like send.
he's not gonna play more than 15 games a season, maybe
Yeah,
I
but
20,
think
maybe. But
I'll be very honest. When it comes to the goalkeeper situation, I do believe I think we should give De Gea another season, because yes, let's face it, he's been on a bit of a decline. but at the same time, for at least 4 consecutive seasons, he was the best player in the squad. And we had some decent players then, without a doubt. And let's remember that the situation when before De Gea came in was pretty much similar to the situation it is now, in just the fact that De Gea's role has been reversed. Thomas Cusack was our keeper, and while he was pretty good, he wasn't exactly a Premier League winning or a Champions League winning or a trophy winning goalkeeper. He wasn't the kind of guy who'd make that save in the final that won you the game in extra time or in normal time, or the kind of guy that would save that crucial penalty in a shootout. De Gea came in, he staggered a little bit, but then he did really well. So I guess just for that, he deserves to be here for at least one season, if not two. And as far as Dean Henderson is concerned, I am extremely impressed with his goalkeeping skills. I think he was on par with Nick Pope all season, and I think the two of them were the best keepers in the Prem. But just the one problem that I have is that, like Rishi mentioned, De Gea is a keeper that needs to be tested the entire game. The problem is the two best keepers this season were in sides that had shots taken at them. While they were two of the best defensive sides in the Prem, they still had shots taken at them. So they were still being tested on a regular basis. And plus, being the keeper for, let's just say, I mean, you can't say that about Sheffield, but for Burnley and Sheffield, if you're a keeper for them, you're essentially a goalkeeper for a mid-table side or a side that's quote-unquote best of the rest. Teams in the top 4 or in the top 6, they are teams that don't regularly get tested as regularly. For example, Rui Patricio. You don't see the Wolves defense being tested that much, but then again, Patricio is the kind of keeper who can activate at a moment's notice. The same goes for Alisson or occasionally Edison. And well, I mean, we can't say that about Kepa. But
Oh.
with all due respect,
I
Maybe
mean,
Cavallero.
honestly, if it's
Maybe
possible,
Cavallero.
if it's possible at all, Henderson जरा इधर भेज दो, जरूरत है.
नहीं, no,
We
thank
need
you.
him desperately.
People forget that De Gea has been at the top for at least the last 5 years. I mean, like Kern said that fine, I agree he's on a decline right now, but it's not like he's lost form completely.
Like
You
Kepa.
know for a fact. Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know what's wrong with Kepa. I really don't. I'm not even gonna go there. It's
Plus, Kepa
beyond
has
me.
an attitude problem. De Gea doesn't.
That's
the
true.
Yeah,
thing as well.
exactly.
That's true.
Yeah, and another thing, so the Gea's dynamics are extremely difficult to manage right now. Right? See, as a manager, if I were in Ole's position, I know that the Gea is still world class. There is absolutely no doubt about it. I don't care if I'm a United fan or not. Seeing the Gea in matches, I agree he's cost us points, and I've been extremely disappointed. I'm not even going to say angry. I've been extremely disappointed that it's been him that has led goals in that maybe even someone like I don't want to name him because he's from a like probably the most bottom league this season if I'm not wrong, but he's extremely good for that side. Like even Tim Krul could save those, right? And that's
That
not a
is
good
true.
comparison.
That is true.
And that's not a good comparison. Like look at someone from De Gea from 3 years ago, 3 seasons ago, and Tim Krul right now, and I don't even know what to say. As a United fan, it hurts me. It's disappointing. I'm upset more than I'm angry that De Gea cost us almost like 12, 13 points if I'm not wrong. I could be overestimating, but something like that, right? And he cost us the semi-final against Chelsea. Like the entire team played shit, in my opinion. But letting those goals in was just like it is the last straw for me. I just couldn't bring myself to watch De Gea in shambles, and he's letting the whole team down. But right now, just I would say just as an ode to the kind of servant he's been to the club, he deserves to stay in at least for 2 seasons, if not more. Like one season,
Definitely, yeah.
you need that. Yeah, you need to see where Henderson and De Gea are with each other. Something I feel last season which was very unfortunate for De Gea is that he was stripped of his captaincy too soon, man. Maguire was handed it off very, very quickly. And I don't like Maguire has been, he's been a leader at Leicester, at England national team.
He's been a leader at United. I completely get that. He has those skills. But De Gea, he's been here for the past, what, 8 years now? 9 years now. He came in 2011.
Exactly. It was a bit too soon.
That is
It was a
too
bit
soon. That's too soon, man. Putting De Gea up for captaincy might actually make him or mold him into, someone like Peter Schmeichel, who could literally, scare other people off just by his sheer presence. And that is the kind of lack of, I would say, character we've had mostly in our defense, which has led to a lot of scrutiny to De Gea unfairly also at times. I mean, there have been so many shots which shouldn't have even come through if like I said earlier, if we had someone who could tackle the ball earlier. And I get it, like, yeah, De Gea should be making those saves, no doubt about that. But at the same time, I also know that he'll be making saves that no other keeper in the world can. So for me, definitely De Gea.
Okay, so to follow up what Raghav said, in the first, I think, 7 seasons, De Gea has just made 6 errors all throughout that led to goal. But if you look at the last 2 seasons, he made 7 errors in the last 2. So that is something I feel also from the goalkeeper's coaching perspective, because I don't remember the coach's name, but that was the coach that helped bring De Gea to Man U in the first place. And they always had a very good relationship right from the start. But up and until, I think, after 17-18, which was peak De Gea, De Gea signed a contract with United without even telling the coach or something. And the coach was like, you betrayed me or something like that, and left the team. And since that, we have seen that decline of De Gea making 7 errors in just 2 seasons instead of doing it over the period of 6 seasons. So, I mean, that is also one aspect that I feel why De Gea has been very low at the moment. And I think we can give him a season at the very least for him to at least compete against Henderson. Even though I read Henderson's reaction timing's been better than De Gea in the testing, but I don't know. I'm just not ready to accept Henderson as the first keeper over De Gea.
I think one thing that is questionable was definitely Maguire coming in as the captain, and maybe not the captaincy being stripped away from De Gea, maybe too soon. And does that beg the question that Ole has handled this captaincy situation not uh, as good as he could have, just because you've got a captain-minded player in Pogba, and you can definitely see that with the speeches, the halftime speeches that he made during the World Cup with France. Even though I don't think he was the captain, but he had that mindset in him. Does that beg the question that Ole has been a good manager for United, um, at the very least with the captaincy situation, and definitely otherwise as well? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so as far as that question is concerned, for the captaincy issue, I mean, you did take up Pogba's example, sure. But the thing is, this is one thing that I've observed with Pogba, something that Roy Keane and Graham Souness have criticized, and some other pundits have pointed out, is that while Pogba likes to be the leader on the pitch, the fact that when it becomes an official responsibility for him, that is when it starts affecting his game, because Pogba likes freedom, and if he has that freedom, then I suppose he plays better than what he already plays, which is pretty good. Let's be honest. Maybe I mean, personally, if I would have been in charge of that decision, I would have given the captain to De Gea when Ashley Young left instead of Maguire, who had just come in. And I suppose the reason for that is majorly speaking, when Ashley Young wasn't playing in games, De Gea was the one who had the captain's armband. And if it wasn't on De Gea, then it was on Herrera. And you could understand it being on Herrera rather than De Gea. You obviously needed someone who could take on the official responsibility. And both Maguire and De Gea could do that. I guess the best solution for that would have been to have left the captaincy with De Gea for this season and then given it to Maguire next season once he's been fully integrated with the team as he is right now. And as far as the managerial aspect of Ole is concerned, while I do believe Ole was the best man to bring us out of this slump, what I don't know if he'll be the man to win us titles like Sir Alex Ferguson did, or even like Jose Mourinho did for that matter. If we're looking at a manager who will win us consistent silverware, I think Ole might not be the man for that. it's obviously not set in stone. I do believe Ole could do that as well, considering the level of improvement and the philosophy that he has, which is the Man United way. But if the time were to come that we have to replace Ole, and obviously if that time comes, it will be by mutual consent. I think the man we really should go for is Julian Nagelsmann. I do not think there is a man better suited than him, because in an ideal world, I probably would have gone for Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp. Nagelsmann has an experience of working with both experienced players as well as young players, which is kind of the setup, which is kind of the ideal setup that we're looking at with United. So that is something that I think we'd really benefit from. But that is only contingent upon the fact that Ole can't win us titles regularly.
Something I feel Ole has like an undue advantage over others is more than just Ole being manager, his managerial staff. Look at the entire batting staff he
Yeah.
has. Michael
That's
Carrick,
true.
Kieran McKenna, yeah, all of these guys, United through and through. That's one of the, I would say, biggest signs that the biggest positive things that he's done at United. But look at Jose Mourinho, right? He came in with his own philosophy, with his own. He has to have his team. Other than that, he cannot work. Without Rui Faria and without the other
Yeah,
people.
exactly,
Sorry, I don't want to
exactly.
say without them, he cannot work. Even at Spurs, even at United, he blatantly said, "I'm not going to get Ryan Giggs into my managerial stuff because if a guy can't be faithful to his brother because of that scandal that happened, how can he be faithful to my team? I can't have that kind of a guy." I mean, fair enough to Mourinho. I mean, that's his opinion. I really can't contest with that because it does make a lot of sense. But at the same time, Ryan Giggs was very faithful to United, right? And what Ole has to his favor is something that Herrera even said, right, in his probably one of his last reviews for United, is that Ole makes it very easy for the players to like him. He does not have that kind of, like he's not unapproachable. Yeah, he is not unapproachable, which was the problem with Jose Mourinho for a lot of players and mostly like young, right? Shaw had a problem with him. Smalling had a problem with him. Pogba later on had a huge problem with him. Rashford wasn't getting the game time he wanted. Martial was underperforming under him. Like the whole squad, he tried to bring in stars which he knew were sure to give him silverware, but at the same time, it wasn't done in the United way. And he made that very clear at the beginning. He said that I will win you trophies, but the game won't be pretty. Like it won't always be pretty. It won't always be ruthless as attacking football. I will want to have my way, but at the same time, you will win. And I agree. There is a lot of scope for improvement for Ole. And personally, I do back him for making us win at least some silverware in the next 5 years. Like at least an FA Cup year, he can challenge for Premier League in 3 years, 2 years down the line. Maybe not this season. Definitely, I am not gonna go ahead and say that we're title contenders yet. Depends on the kind of transfers we have. But yeah, Ole can definitely win us silverware. Now,
But do you think, like as you said, 5 years down the line, you see Ole maybe being a great manager and then being replaced by someone else? To be very honest, like with Chelsea, the philosophy is more about winning silverware, right? And over the years, we've seen like clubs like Chelsea and United have now been pushed back down to the third and fourth position compared to what we were in 2017-18, maybe, where we were still like maybe a little before that for United, but we were still competing for the Premier League, and we were definitely one of those teams who, if not were winning it, then definitely competing for the FA Cup or some of the other league cups and other competitions. But I
yeah,
don't see
so
that kind of ruthlessness with Ole at the moment, even though I agree, and same with Lampard, I think. Even though both of them have been brilliantly backed, they have their own philosophy, they know the clubs inside and out. But do they have that ruthless ability of maybe Mourinho or maybe even an Antonio Conte, who can take them to the final and maybe just nick the final and win it?
Ole doesn't trust his squad enough to come out and have an impact on the game. His tactics in terms of making the right substitutions has been utterly, it's been below par, like below average. As a United fan, I feel that the kind of substitutions that we could have had at the times we expected them to, they didn't in most of the games, right? We don't have the kind of squad depth, a quality squad depth that we need. Yet at the same time, if there was some other manager, some other experienced manager, maybe like Diego Simeone or even
Yeah.
Pochettino, he would make do. Like I know he would probably need a better squad, but he would make do with the kind of people we still had. They're not bad players. They're maybe not to the level of United, but they're not bad. So yeah, that is some aspect that he really needs to improve on.
So let's say, how much time do you give Ole if he does not win you a silverware in the next 2 seasons? Let's go to Varun with this.
If he doesn't have the backing from the board to get in the players we need right now, I am pretty sure he's going to get sacked after the season.
But he
Because-
has the backing already. I mean, to be
Bro,
honest,
if-
80
if-
million on
if
a
we-
center
no,
back,
no. If-
then 45 million on a
but that was
back, then
needed. That
Bruno.
was the dire situation.
Yes,
because
but
he
that's what I'm
didn't
saying.
have
Like,
anything.
I'm sure
Right.
if Mourinho was there, he wouldn't have gotten the same backing as.
But he
as
would
Ole.
have gotten Sancho the very first
Just
time
to
we
say.
made a bid. The thing is, right now we need someone on the attacking side as well, and we are not able to get right. And that's what happened with Marino. He wasn't able to get the players he wanted. He got sacked because the board wasn't backing him, and he couldn't do with the team. But at the I think he got Ole got Maguire, Van Bissaka, Bruno. That was the signing of the season. But we still need those players, and I feel Glazers. I feel Woodward is still not going to be like, okay, you just go get Sancho. That's the worst part of the board of not backing our managers, and that's why all the criticism just comes on to the manager that they are not doing the thing that they have to.
I agree with the fact that our manager is not always back. Like if Ole wants a signing, it's gonna take a long time for him to get it. But like like you said, I mean, if we had a manager like Pochettino or maybe Nagelsmann, right, he would be doing better with the squad we have. We wouldn't be losing 3 semi-finals right now. And a big reason is I feel Ole as a manager, he does have a philosophy of how to play, but he doesn't really have a proper style of play, how to attack, how to defend. It's when I watch United, it's more like freestyle football. You have Pogba, you have Bruno, you have Martial, and passing the ball around, and there's no real fluidity in our attack. And
Yeah, exactly.
if you look
There's
at
no recognized style.
and if you look at maybe like Frank Lampard or Mikel Arteta, right, you can watch a style of play in their football. I mean, you can see how they progress the ball forward, and you can see that they actually have a way to play. And I think that if you actually have a proper way to play, then you can do with players like Lingard and maybe Pereira, Mata. Like if you look at Lampard, he's had players like Ross Barkley. He's played with Mount is good, but you have players like Barkley, you have Pedro, Willian, and he still managed to get good performances from them because he has an actual proper style of play. But the way Ole
Though he
plays,
had
he
Marcos
needs
Alonso.
yeah, and the way Ole plays, he needs top players at every position. That's one weakness I feel Ole has. But other than
That's
that, he's
actually a good point, because you
Definitely.
see, everyone is going to draw comparisons between Lampard and Ole for sure. And Ole has
And
had 6
Arteta.
months on Lampard,
And
at
Arteta
least,
as well. Yeah.
and Arteta, yes, now. But 6 months, he has had 6 months more than what Lampard has had at Chelsea. Both of them have. I think Lampard has been backed more considering the amount of signings that we've made now. Had because I think you've been very lucky as a team with the COVID thing that happened, that we had to stop the Premier League and then the restart, because a lot of your players came back from injury and in a much better form. So I think
That's
that way
true,
you've
yeah.
been lucky and you've got into the top four. But yes, losing 3 semi-finals and then finishing the same points as Chelsea, though with a better goal difference, of course. Um, is that a little concerning? Let's go to Tanish with this, and what are your thoughts on this? Like, I think it should be concerning considering that it's been a decent amount of time since you won some silverware, and this year in the Europa League, nothing happened. In the FA Cup, nothing happened. When your team needs a win the most, Ole hasn't been able to provide that.
I think it is concerning, but at the same moment, I saw this season and like the later half of the last season as like a redevelopment phase for Man United after Mourinho left the club, and for me, there wouldn't have been a better manager than Ole to like get United back, you know, from like where Mourinho left them. What United also, I think, realized was like not to bring a manager like maybe Allegri or Zidane right away when you don't have like a proper system already set up, like proper players, and like you don't have a, if you don't have the system set up, then these big managers they can't do anything. Like you can't just say that to go and win the league with
I agree, but then
so
there's this question still that definitely would have been the best manager to come in and settle the team and instill this Man United philosophy that he had been brought up with, with his career at United as a player. And same for Lampard, I think. But the only difference I see is United could have gotten Pochettino at a very good time in the season where Ole had already settled the team. Yes, I mean, I think it would have been better if you guys maybe would have switched to Pochettino just because of the success that he's had at Spurs. I know it's not much when you want to quantify that, just because Spurs and silverware, those two words don't go in the same sentence together. But yeah, I think having Pochettino in would have been really good for United, considering how Ole has set up the team already. For someone to just come in and maybe steer the ship further and be that ruthless manager that you guys need to win silverware. I
Uh,
think that still can be done. That still can be done if Ole, maybe giving Ole this year, by the end of this
yeah,
year,
I think
if literally nothing improves, if you're still going to semifinals and not improving, maybe then bringing in Poch is a great idea, I think.
Because if this year he can get those signings in this transfer, the team will be like at the start of next season will be at a position like where everyone gels in with each other pretty good. And then when you bring on a manager like Poch, then I think that would be a good time. But I
Yeah.
definitely don't see Ole as a manager who cannot win silverware. I think
yeah, I think
Right.
I think
I
it's
mean,
going to be
if
a
he
make or
becomes
break
ruthless
season.
enough, right? It definitely does become a make or break season. And the thing is, he's just too sweet of a personality for a manager. He's not ruthless on the players, and that's why I mean, at times I feel like players also just take it for granted and like don't do stuff.
Obviously, if we're comparing the new managers in the league, let us remember that out of the three relatively new managers, of course, in the league, only Mikel Arteta has actually won trophies, and the trophies that he's won has been because he has a world-class Aubameyang, let's be honest, on his team. And if we are to look at Lampard and we are to look at Man United, neither of them have won any silverware. I think that if we're going to judge Frank Lampard and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, then I think you have to judge them on the same plane, because more or less they've had identical seasons, they've had identical problems. What Lampard has had that Ole hasn't had, at least right now, is that sort of a backing in the transfer market. Because like Aryan mentioned, Abramovich has gotten behind Lampard fully in the transfer market, told him, you want this player, you're going to get him, we're going to get him for you, and you don't have to worry. If that happens with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, then they're on a level playing field for next season. If that doesn't, then you can't really judge them in the same light, considering they had a near identical season with near identical pros and cons in the same season, right?
One place where I feel Lampard has done tremendously well, exceeding expectations, is he literally inherited a squad which did not have, which depended a lot on Hazard to create assists and score goals. And so he got a squad which was not allowed transfers. He got a squad which is extremely young. They did not have a proper centre back. They were dependent heavily on young attackers, and not a prolific striker in either Giroud or Tammy Abraham. So in that aspect, I think Lampard has done much better than Ole in terms of managing with the squad that he had. Now Ole did get his signings, but the players that he didn't do as good as some other manager might have. But in the long run, I do feel that Ole can win a silverware still, just in terms of the pure backing that he has.
How many years do you think Ole can stay a Man United manager without winning silverware, and then the top 4 predictions that you guys have. Let's start with Varun.
I feel Ole can do 2 years without a silverware, and for the top four, it's most probably going to be Pool, City, United, and Chelsea.
For me also, I think Ole most likely 2 years if without silverware. Also, if he wins like a trophy this season, still I think 2 years or maybe 2.5, something like that. And top four, I think if Messi comes to City, then City first, then Liverpool, then United, and then Chelsea.
Raghav.
2 years for Ole. Top four predictions. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, if Messi does come, then I would probably give the handoff to City, then Liverpool, then maybe United. Uh, Fourth, I'm actually pretty divided between Spurs and Chelsea right now because even Spurs are building and they have Mourinho, and he can definitely get them into top four. So it's I think I'll go with Spurs more because Chelsea do not have that stability that they need to get through, in my opinion.
Rishi.
If Ole does not win any silverware in the coming season, then he could be sad. I mean, I'm giving maybe one season. And for the top four, I'm going to go with City. And if Chelsea get a goalkeeper, then I would say Chelsea second, Liverpool, and then United.
And Kern.
So for giving Ole, if he gets the signings that he wants, at least in the attacking third this season, then I'd give him 2 years. If this isn't a successful transfer window for us, then I think it's very possible that he gets 3 years at the helm, without silverware, that is. And for my top four, I'd go for the same as this season. I mean, I'm divided between City and Pool, to be very honest, for the top two. And I think the positions will switch around this season. Chelsea will be third, United will be fourth, but it's going to come down to the last couple of matches for the season for the final UCL spot between either Spurs and United or Wolves and United.
I think for me Ole only has this year left. If he doesn't win silverware, I think it's best to sack him and maybe get someone like Poch. For the top four, for me, it's definitely gonna be Liverpool, Chelsea in second, City in third, and then United at fourth. Uh, just because Arsenal and Spurs have been getting good signings in and have good managers, maybe either of them have a chance for the fifth place. But I don't see them coming into the top four with these four teams already there. And I think yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for being here.
pleasure, man.
Loved the conversation, even though I'm not a United fan.
Same.
A lot to
Here's the message.
yeah, a lot of contrasting points of view between you guys. Definitely you guys were agreeing with each other a lot as well. Great to have you guys on the show, and we'll be sure to do this maybe once the season starts, maybe doing this again, and after a few weeks let's just see how United does in those first few weeks, and then maybe we'll have something like this again.
And also how these videos do as well.
That's true.
Like the City
On
Leon
that
video.
note, yeah, on that note, please like, share, and subscribe. Obviously, do follow us on Instagram. You're going to see the tags somewhere here. Please follow all of us on Instagram, and please do leave comments, and we need a name. Please leave that in the
Yeah,
comments
please.
down below.
Please give us a name, yeah.
That's the priority.
Thanks for watching, guys.